This week on Roots and Reflections, we join one of Israel's top sculptors, Sam Philippe, who specializes in biblical-themed art. The Bible comes alive in Sam's foundry, where a team of artisans works together creating metal, ceramic, and stone sculptures covering the stories from Genesis to the New Testament, like the return of the prodigal son. And he arose and came to his father, but when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him.
A lot of my work is biblical work, different scenes from the Bible, and different scenes from the heritage of the Jewish people. This is probably one of the most exciting pieces that I've made because the story is a very special story. It's not just the dream of Jacob, it's much more than that the way I see it. It's actually God that revealed himself to Jacob during his dream. He taught him about the genealogy. He told him about DNA. And he told him, and you can read it later in Genesis 31, when he makes the deal with his father-in-law, Lavan, so he knows that even if he takes the sheep that have mark, he would still get what he wanted. It's exciting, and that's why I made the leather in the shape of a DNA, the double helix, as you can see. That's very much like the double helix of the DNA, because Jacob was the first one that learned from God about DNA, and that's the way, the shape of the ladder.
I'm totally overtaken how as an artist you suddenly connect all this to DNA.
When I make a statue, and especially a biblical statue, I make my research, and the first thing that I would do, I would go to the site. In that case it was Bet El, and I would try to get the feeling of the site, of the location. For me, Jacob and the power that God gave him in Jacob's dream, that was extremely significant, much more than many other stories in the Bible for me. The other thing that was significant about it, that Jacob actually was the first one that built a place of prayer, a place for God. The moment he placed the stone that he laid on it and put it on the ground and made his blessing, again you can read it in Genesis 28, that was the first temple ever in the Bible, the first place of worship is Jacob. So when you think about it, how significant it is, and that's why it triggered me to make this sculpture, because it combines so many powerful things for the Jewish people.
These big pieces like Jacob's ladder, it must cost a lot of money.
It does. It's 6 figures at least for the Jacob's ladder, dollars.
And do you have any estimate of how many hours of labor?
If I say it takes about a year, that's the time, but during this time there's dozens of people working on it, from the people in the wax room, the people in the ceramic room, the casting room, the patina room, the bronze. Another thing, it's made in Israel. This is the one and only. I reproduce the menorah, which is on Titus Arch in Rome. Many people have done the menorah, the temple menorah. But for me, as an artist, I felt that the closest thing to reality is what's on the Ark of Titus, because they took it from Jerusalem. We have evidence for that from Josephus Flavius. They carried it to Rome, and
it's still there today?
We'll talk about it, but anyway, they carry it, and the artist there captured it in the Ark. The Ark of Titus, the Arch of Titus, is more than 2,000 years old. Now, this piece, when it's finished, it's going to be covered with 24-karat gold. It would be a very expensive piece. It's going to be in a new project I'm doing in Ma'ale Edomim, called East Gate of Jerusalem, where I'm making a 45 feet olive tree out of cement that you can go inside and you can see an archaeological dig, a make-believe archaeological dig, showing the menorah, showing the Ark of the Covenant, and showing the Dead Sea Scroll and the jars.
After visiting Sam Philippe's foundry, on a different day we joined the sculptor on an inspection tour of his huge Tree of Life project. The book of Genesis tells us, "The Lord planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord God made every tree grow that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden." Sam, a journey with you along the way to the desert outside of Jerusalem. I believe we're in a place called Ma'ale Adumim.
Exactly, Ma'ale Adumim.
Tell me about it.
The city of Ma'ale Adumim was built annexed to Jerusalem, actually to protect Jerusalem from the east. All these hills back in the early 70s, there was nothing here. As you can see over there, it was very much the same. Today, the city of Ma'ale Adumim have close to 50,000 people living here. It's a beautiful city because it's very nicely kept, very clean. They even built this beautiful park called the Shamir Park, which you see right here.
Well, in the middle or next to the Shamir Park, I see something that reminds me of like a tree out of Lord of the Rings or something. It looks like a movie set, but it's incredible. I've never seen such a structure quite like that. It looks like metal, iron, something like that.
This is my sculpture that I'm building for the last 2 years. The name of it is the Tree of Life, and it's going to be covered. Right now you see the metal structure. It's all covered with a metal net, and probably in a week or so we're going to cover it with concrete.
Wow.
And then we're doing the sculpting that it would look like a tree.
So why would you have a big parking lot next to it? And I don't know what the parking lot's all about.
I will tell you, the city that gave me the land, they're making it a visitor center. By the park there's a few restaurants and a place for all the buses going towards the Dead Sea. They can stop, they can have a meal, and they can just sit by the lake. And what I'm building is a place where they can come and actually visit, because they can go inside the tree. Inside the tree,
wow.
I'm revealing several
Elements.
artifacts.
Yeah.
The city of Ma'ale Adumim built the parking lot for the buses.
Because I remember this place somewhere along the way, the Good Samaritan Inn and a camel ride or two.
All right, the Good Samaritan is about 2 miles further east.
Mm-hmm.
This is really nearby. I mean, this is like 2 miles from Jerusalem. So if they want just to stop here for lunch and then continue either east or back to Jerusalem.
I used to sing a song in the musical Oliver Twist. Food, glorious food. I think maybe we need to go down, show this in detail, get a close-up of it, and then have a bite to eat.
That's a good idea.
This wire structure looks like 10,000 coat hangers that used to be made of metal, all twisted together.
This is a project that I started almost 2 years ago. It's going to be the Tree of Life, probably the largest tree of life in the Middle East. It's about 50 feet high, as you can see. It's made out of steel, and it's going to be covered with concrete. So what you see is, for the last 6 months, with my team, I'm actually covering it with metal and a net, a metal net, so when we apply the concrete on it, it would stick. So once we apply the concrete on it, I'll be able to do a sculpting of a Tree of Life. It would be an image of an olive tree, which over there I found this old olive tree. This is about 1,000 years old, and I'm going to try to make it similar to this tree. but with one big difference. You can go inside. You can go inside the tree, and inside the tree, the bottom floor would be it would be a glass floor, and you would be able to see an excavation of the Dead Sea Scroll. So some of these scrolls I reproduce. I did give one scroll to the Pope when I met with him in Rome. And the idea would be that people would walk on the floor and they'll be able to see these jars, and through the jar they'll be able to see the scrolls. On the side, when you go inside, there'll be two images. One, it would be a life-size, identical like the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant, with the cherubim on top, with the Ten Commandments that would be set right next to it. And next to it, there'll be the menorah, the temple menorah, which
nice.
After I visited Rome, I spent days seeing how, the image there on the Titus Ark, to see how it looks like. So that would be presented inside the tree. So when the visitors would walk inside, they'll be able to learn about our heritage, about our history, and enjoy this beautiful site.
And it's amazing because I never thought Ma'ale Adumim as a tourist center, but I assume you're not going to hide this tree of life. You're going to invite people to come.
This area, in the summertime, like now, we have hundreds and hundreds of tour buses stopping here for lunch.
And just coming here, I know that on the side of the road you can see Bedouin tents, families, you can see the desert, you can look up to the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, you can see Park Shamir like an oasis here.
Right.
It seems like a nice place to visit.
Definitely, and it's all nearby. So when you visited Mount of Olives, you can just stop here and then continue to the Dead Sea. So it's right on the tourist map.
I have another question for you. Just explain from a biblical perspective and inspire us about the importance of the tree of life.
Look, the tree of life is a symbol, is a connection of us to God. We all believe that there'll be a day when the Messiah would come, and all these names that are registered in the tree of life, all these souls would be back with God. So the tree of life is a symbolic. They mention it in the Bible, the tree of life, and I always vision it in my mind and wanted to see it in my lifetime.
Nice.
So I decided to just create it.
Maybe that's like Tuvia from Fiddler on the Roof when he sings L'chaim, to life.
Tuvia is a nice story, but here we are talking about the essence of our both Jews and Christian heritage, our connection to God.
Oh man, that sounds like a winner. So we definitely have to come and visit when this is all finished, but I'm interested to look a little bit more in detail, close up about this whole wire mesh and this system of creating such a tree of life like this. Sam has created the towering branches of the Tree of Life out of 50 tons of heavy steel. The 5-story structure is anchored in a thick concrete base, meeting all safety standards, as Ma'ale Adumim experiences heavy winds, especially in winter. The metal beams are covered in wire netting, given shape by welded smaller pieces of iron rebar. These hold the netting in place, which will be sprayed with concrete, giving it the shape and look of a tree. Sam, it's a different perspective from up here. What can you tell us, looking at and down this beautiful structure that I can envision, the Tree of Life?
After we finish with the concrete, it will be all hand sculpting. In other words, I'll be standing here and I would give it the look of a real tree. It takes a long time just to do every piece here, because if we miss something, the result would be that the concrete is not going to hold. And that's not something we want to happen. So we have to make it very precise for it to be strong, to be steady. Once the concrete is on it, then we can do the sculpting. The sculpting would take me a few months to make it.
So from start to finish, how long a project does this take?
From start to finish, I would say would be 2 years. It's like a 5-story building, but it's not like building a building. It's much more complicated because it's a piece of art. So, you know, it's not just putting one brick after another. You have to make it look the way you want.
Well, it's truly amazing, it's truly tall, and it's truly magnificent, and I can't wait to see it.
While we are here, I'm giving instruction to the man here of things that need to be done that has to be reduced because it's too long and the concrete won't hold it good enough. It has to be a little bit smaller. Gamze, אתה רואה? If you look to the right, you see behind you see the beautiful parking lot that the city of Ma'ale Adumim have put together, so all these visitors would be able to come here and enjoy their stopover as they come to the park.
Hey everybody, our word of the week is pesel, which is a sculpture. But who makes those sculptures? A pasal, which is the sculptor. So there we go, another word of the week for all of you. Pesel or pasal? You choose, but remember to learn it, and let's meet again and say it. Pesel. Sam, this is incredible. In the heart of Ma'ale Adumim, a finished piece that we can look at and appreciate. Who are we looking at here?
This is Anne Frank.
Of course.
Sitting and writing her diary, made of bronze.
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 Looks like a school desk to me.
Exactly. That's how I visited in Amsterdam, and I took a look. And one of the things that caught my eye was the library that she was hiding behind it. So when they told me that they need to remove this electricity box, I said, no, don't move it. And I painted the library on top. You can see it's over there.
That's amazing.
But Anne is sitting now. If you see on the fence, I put branches to symbolize the tree that she was looking out of the window, the chestnut tree.
Oh, I didn't notice that. So
see,
right behind her are all these vines or branches.
The branches of the chestnut and then the barbed wire, which I made it. So it just fits with the story.
It's really incredible. And, you know, of course...
And this is like the attic, you know, it's like the attic, symbolize the attic, the light. Now, even the writing here, it's really writing in Dutch. Really writing in Dutch. And what we wrote here, in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. So that's what's written here in Dutch.
And I notice instead of a Dutch and Israeli flag, you have a U.S. and Israeli flag.
No, not Dutch. This is a U.S. and Israeli flag,
right,
because this is part of a project that I work with an organization in the United States, that the idea is the children, you see, as it said, children are the ultimate victims of adult biography and ignorance. So we're trying to protect the children. So that's the idea. And the Anne Frank, which is a symbol that everybody knows, it's not only about the Holocaust, it's also about protecting children everywhere in the world.
That's a beautiful story.
And here we have 3 major schools. We have thousands and thousands of school kids that come in here and can view Anne Frank and read her diary.
And this holds up well under any weather condition.
Yes, yes. This is it's already after a very strong winter that we had, a lot of rain. See, perfect.
So you know, we've looked at Jacob's ladder being built, we've looked at the tree of life being built, but we've come to probably one of the most cherished memories for all of us of the 6 million Jews who were killed in the Holocaust, and of course, probably a good million of them at least were children, and she represents the children, she represents the Holocaust, she represents the importance of never forgetting again and of educating generation after generation.
Exactly.
Beautiful piece.
אנחנו היינו גרים בדרום יוגוסלביה, זה נקרא קוסובו. כשבאו הגרמנים, הם באו לחפש את אבא שלי בגלל שהוא היה מוכר בעיר, ולא מצאו את אבא שלי, אז הלכו אצל יהודי אחר, והיה לו בן אחד. אז לקחו את הבן שלו ותלו אותו.
אני הייתי לארץ ב-77. אמרו לי, אבא, תלכו מהר למרוקו, אין נאצים שם. היינו במרוקו, לקחו לנו 2 בנים, אחד 21, הרגו אותו, והשני חזר בלי עיניים.
בן אדם שעובר בקושי, הוא תמיד גם יודע להתמודד ממנו יותר טוב ממי שלא יודע. זה דרך החיים. מוכרחים ללמוד כל דבר. וכשבאנו בארץ, קיבלו אותנו עם לחם לבן וריבה. זה היה כאילו עוגה הכי טובה.
No one can erase the memory of the Holocaust. But together we can help its survivors live in comfort and dignity. It is our goal to provide financial aid, warmth, and fellowship to Israel's Holocaust survivors.
אני יש לי בחדר את הרדיאטור, וגם עכשיו הוא דלוק. בגלל שכשאין לי מה לעשות, אני משחקת בברית שמה והכל במחשב. אני רוצה ליהנות ממה שיש לי, ומה שאני יודעת. מה שאני לא יודעת, שידעו הצעירים.
אני עכשיו קיבלתי רדיאטור ושמיכה. תודה רבה. ממש תודה. זה גם עזרה טובה. תודה.
Let us show these dear men and women how much you love them by joining us in our mission to provide Israel's last Holocaust survivors with the security, support, and warmth that they so desperately need.
So we're going to visit a good friend of Sam's called Chader, and we're going to have a great time. Ahlan. Sam,
Yeah.
I want to know, you brought us to this lovely place. It could be like anywhere in the world, but we are in the hills
The hills of Jerusalem.
of Jerusalem.
Right.
But give us a background, why here?
Okay, Chader, my friend, he is a mason. He builds in
Stonemason.
stonemason. And for more than 30 years we worked together. As you know, every statue that I made, I need a special base for the statue. And sometimes I need a statue made out of stone, so we work together. And I give him the instruction, and he, first of all, he find me the stone, because in my artwork it's very important that I use the stone from the location that it took place, like Jerusalem stone, Sea of Galilee stone, Sinai stone. So he find me all these stone, and then we work with the stone.
But interesting, it reminds me, because I think Jesus himself was really a stonemason. he worked with stone, not so much wood.
If you say so. I thought, wasn't he a carpenter?
Well, that's the general line of thought, but
Yeah.
there was a lot more stone than there was wood.
Okay.
That's
Also,
why.
Hader is from a Christian family. This gives us we feel like brothers. I'm Jewish, he's Christian, and we are surrounded with all the Muslims here. We work with the Muslims, they work with us, so we have no problems. And
So I fit perfectly in between you both.
You are Jewish.
Yes.
זה מקלובה.
Makluba. Wow.
Thank Hader.
Wow. So we're being served a homemade dish that Hader cooked right outside on the grill. Yeah, charcoal, everything, called makluba. Makluba. Say makluba. And what's in it? It's chicken and rice, right?
Usually you do it with lamb, but I ask him to do with chicken.
So most of the time, as Sam was telling me, you have lamb and rice, but today we have chicken and rice. Remember? Chicken noodle soup? Chicken and rice soup? No, makluba. Chicken and rice together, but homemade on the grill outside in the hills of Jerusalem. You don't know what you're missing. You have to come. So, again, this is makluba, chicken, and can be lamb and rice, but homemade. Don't ever forget that. Homemade is the best made.
It has the idea of makluba that you turn the pot, and all the things you put in the bottom, such as cauliflower and potato and carrot, they get all the juice, and when you turn it around, so they come on top.
Like an upside down
Yes.
cake. One for me. Maybe more than one for me. And one for you. With the taste of makluba, we conclude this edition of Roots and Reflections. Join us next time as we explore the land of Israel, its sights, mysteries, land, nature, cuisine, and society. And join me, Barry Segal, on an upcoming tour of the land of the Bible.